So Justin Herbert is now a Los Angeles Charger. I'll be honest, it's not what I would have done, not the decision I would have made if I was the Chargers. I have not been as high on Herbert as some other people. I made a whole video about it earlier, but you know what? I'm not just going to be negative. I'm going to actually talk about the positives in this video and talk about why I could be wrong and why Herbert actually might still be a very good player. Because, it's all a guess. I don't feel like I definitively can say anything. I'm just taking educated guesses. That's all the draft is. That's what, anyone from the media to a fan to the people actually making the picks are doing. You never know. And so I'll talk about the positives and we'll sort of get into what maybe I could be wrong about and what he could actually do well, because he does do some things very well in college. I don't think that he's a mess by any means. I think he actually has a lot of talent. And so I could just keep talking about it, but instead, let's just get into it and let's jump into the film study. One thing interesting about Herbert is that he isn't just someone who can throw the football. He is somebody who is a great athlete. He can run with the football, and I do think that there is some value there. I think that, you can definitely see him running some RPOs in the NFL level. Definitely, without a doubt. We'll take a look at this play, for example, where that's what's going to happen. It's going to be an option play right here where he could hand it off to his halfback, or he could keep it out and run to the bottom half of the screen. Those are his two options on this play. It's simply all going to come down to which direction the edge rusher decides to cover, which gap is he going to cover up. Is he going to make sure that he covers up where the halfback is going to be running or where the quarterback is going to be running? And he is going to try to make sure that he stops a running play with the halfback. And so because of that, Herbert is going to take this ball himself. And so basically what's going to happen then at the second level is there is an Oregon player who's going to run over to make sure that he's blocking that Wisconsin player, but this is going to leave another Wisconsin linebacker pretty much completely free to try to tackle Herbert here. Now, the advantage that Herbert has is that he could potentially get fooled. He could think this is going to be a running play. He could move out to the middle of the field as well. But as you see right after that point, it doesn't work out too well. I mean, Herbert is trying to get around him, but at this point, it was just a good read by that Wisconsin linebacker. So that's one step right there is, okay, you're in a bad situation, more so due to a good read than anything else. You can still run forward and gain some yards, but watch how Herbert is going to be able to just outrun him here. He gets a good stiff arm. That looks sort of Taysom Hill-like right there, and he's able to get into the end zone for a touchdown. It's having just that quick couple of steps got him in position to be able to pull off that stiff arm. If he just ran at a normal speed, the way you see most quarterbacks run, they're getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage, and he turned a play like that into a touchdown, and I do think that matters. Obviously, the most important thing in a quarterback is how well do you throw the ball, but having that extra advantage can really help you, especially because you just do it a couple of times, and then every time you run the ball, when you give it to your halfback, now an edge rusher is looking over, making sure that he's protecting a potential quarterback keeper, and when you do that, it makes it so much easier for the halfback to run, because you basically get a free blocker just with the idea that maybe Herbert is running the ball. So there is a huge advantage in that, and if teams have him do those types of things, which I suspect they might, it could really work out for them. This play was also a fun play where what's going to happen is that it's going to be cover 3 zone that Oregon is going up against, and it's actually going to get a little bit creative where it is going to be a handoff, but then the halfback is going to lateral it back to the wide receiver right over there, and then what's going to happen is the receiver will then toss it over to Herbert. Herbert's then going to try to throw it deep down the field. It's almost like an even more complicated flea flicker type situation going on right now. Some fun stuff, interesting play call, and these types of play calls are always fun to break down, the more creative ones without a doubt. But anyways, right when the ball is snapped, it's going to work out pretty well. Herbert is going to throw the ball deep down the field, and you notice that receiver is open. So, pretty good play call, but that's not really why I'm showing this play. Yes, it was a good play call. Yes, it did work out very well. It was well executed by everybody on the field. But watch this throw. That's just a perfect throw. Yes, there was plenty of separation, but he didn't need really much of any separation to make that throw. It was just a very accurate throw deep down the field. My biggest problem with Herbert is his accuracy, but you know what? When he connects on one, he can connect on one 50 yards down the field, which is kind of the advantage to taking him as opposed to taking somebody else, is that he does have that big arm. He can throw the ball downfield. He also will do a pretty good job of just putting a ball in a place where a receiver can make the catch. My biggest concern about Herbert that I talked about in my last video was simply with the fact that I just feel like more often than not, when he has to make a tough throw, he does not make that tough throw. And that is kind of true, actually, but at the same time, he does do a pretty good job of putting his receivers in a position where they can make a catch. Where in today's NFL, receivers are so good and the rules are shifted so much to the receivers that can actually be a pretty good thing. This is an example of what I'm talking about, where it's a cover 3 zone, and what Oregon is going to do here is they're going to have that receiver run that route right there. The idea behind this route isn't to try to get open, really, but more so to try to get the Stanford defensive back who's in charge of covering the top third of the screen deep to run further towards the middle of the field, then to have another receiver run that route, and hopefully he gets open. And that part does work, but another Stanford player realizes this, does a good job of staying back right here, so some separation. As you see, number 21 is now turned away from the quarterback, so that's an advantage, but at the same time, I mean, definitely not wide open, not a dream scenario when you drew this play up. But Herbert is still going to give his player a chance. Watch how he just fires one in there. And really, that's just a good throw. It's a very, quick throw. Got there in a hurry. And that's how they were able to get the touchdown on that play. Was that some spectacular play by Herbert? No, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say it was a great play by Herbert. It wasn't like he did all of that. But you know what? He did his part. And sometimes that's all you have to do in football. It's not always make these perfect, amazing throws that are spectacular, and there is a very small window, but you still found a way to make it work. Sometimes just give your receiver a chance, and oftentimes they can show you why they're good receivers. They can show you why they're Division I athlete receivers, or in the NFL, why they're NFL-level receivers. That's just what they can do. So I do think that that'll actually probably be more of a benefit than a bad thing. I think you see Case Keenum do this a lot, where he'll just throw it up to guys, and they'll be able to make catches, and people will say, oh, well, that wasn't very talented from Keenum. And I think Keenum would argue, well, hey, if we're getting a touchdown on a play, then what's the difference? And I also think that just, the fact that he has that big arm, it factors in multiple different ways. Obviously, what people talk about when they talk about a big arm is most people will talk about just down the field type of big arm, which, that's the most obvious way you can think about a big arm. But there's actually several ways a big arm can come into play, and one of which will be shown on a play like this, where it's going to be a cover 1 hole, and what the play is going to be is that it's going to be play action, and then have a receiver running that route right there. So this is kind of a better concept against zone coverage, because there's more people who are watching the quarterback and being ready for a run. But even on this play, it can work. The player in the middle of the field will probably suspect the run, move in a little bit, and then there could be an opening deep down the field. That's what could happen. And it does. Herbert has an open receiver. There's some separation here. He definitely has a window to fit it through. There also is a safety who's deep, though, so he couldn't take forever. He pretty much has to make this throw instantly, and the first thing he does is he doesn't hesitate. I mean, you look at him now, he's already in a throwing motion, but the other thing he does is he's just going to throw a bullet in there. I think the safety was too far away for that to really matter, but even if the safety had made a perfect break on that play, it still was never going to be knocked away unless he was just out of position, quite frankly, or just saw something beforehand and realized that that's what was going to happen, because no way was that going to end up being a bad thing, really. So yeah, I mean, listen, do I have my problems with Herbert as a quarterback? I do. I'm not going to pretend I don't. I think that he has some flaws, but I've talked about those before. I do think that he has value as a quarterback, and there is a chance, there's a greater than 0 chance he's a franchise quarterback, without a doubt. I'm not one of those people that will say, I don't love him, so I think he's a bust. That's just not what I do. People keep talking about him being a bust, but we never know. I mean, last year, everyone talked about Daniel Jones being such a mess and what a terrible quarterback that they chose instead of picking Haskins, and then all of a sudden, I think now, pretty much everyone would rather have Jones than Haskins, although I still think Haskins has a shot. I think it's too early to totally call him dead just yet. But I mean, listen, everyone said that Josh Rosen was the better prospect than Lamar Jackson. We never do know, and us media people, I say us media people, I'm not really sure I count as a media person, but us people who make a living talking about sports, we really don't know what we're talking about. We just do our best to give you our opinions, and if you agree with us, cool, and if not, that's also cool. So, yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys are enjoying all my videos. I'm going to have made a decent amount. I'm going to make a decent amount more. So, keep watching. Be on the lookout for future videos, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.